We're going to be looking at tying in a palmered hackle, which is a hackle that is wound in open turns down the body of the fly. It's a traditional and ancient way of tying flies. If you're going to tie a palmered hackle for a dry fly, you should position the hackle with the dull side to the front of the fly. If you're tying a wet fly, rather the other way around with the dull side to the back. Just trim off the flue bits from the stalk and tie the hackle in firmly at the front of the abdomen. Take the hackle pliers and start to wrap the hackle around the body of the fly like that. Now I think it looks a lot better to make one or two extra wraps right next to each other at the front of the fly and then open up the spiral as you come down the abdomen. Neat, open, even turns of hackle. We're going to have just enough to make it. When you get to the bend, just leave the hackle pliers hanging like that. Take the copper wire or ribbing and wind back up the hook in open turns. Whoops, hit the camera again. Open turns like that, and tie off the wire with the thread. And you'll see that my hackle plier snapped the hackle off for me. I don't have to trim it. Just trim off the stalk of the hackle, and then you can either add an additional hackle at the front or a wing, or you can leave it just as it is like this, depending on the kind of fly you're tying. Whip finish. And there you have the palmered hackle. You notice that when I was winding the wire, other than when I was clubbing the camera with it, I wasn't doing anything particular. You see some people say you must wiggle the wire to and fro to avoid trapping the hackle fibres. The best way is just to go. Just wind and the hackle fibres will sort themselves out. You'll find very few that end up trapped or causing a problem. Just simply wind through them and it will turn out okay in the end. So there's a basic palmered hackle, used in a lot of traditional wet flies, and of course also used in a very well-known Elker caddis dry fly for that matter. Not a complicated technique. The interesting point though is that this is the only instance where you wind the ribbing in the same direction that you wind the thread, because you have to go in the same direction to trap the hackle. If you want to be really, really clever, you wind the hackle backwards and wind the wire backwards, and that way you reinforce the body as well. But that might be getting just a little bit too complicated.